بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد النبي الأمي وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين وبعد. So alhamdulillah, we continue reading from the work of Sayyidi Muhyiddin Abd al-Qadir al-Jilani rahimahullah wa ridwa anhu, al-Fath al-Rabbani wal-Fayd al-Rahmani, a set of 62 discourses, lectures that he delivered at various times in the year 545 of the Hijrah in Medinat al-Salam, Medinat Baghdad. So we have reached the 17th discourse, and one of the themes that we'll be discussing early on here, which comes in the beginning of the discourse, is to speak for Allah and speak by Allah and to speak with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That our speech is something that begins with an inward aspect. Some of them refer to this as kalam al-nafsi, and we learn about this also in theology. So the speech or the kalam begins inside, fi nafsika, right, within your mind or within your heart, and then when it actually comes out, when you start speaking, then it becomes al-kalam al-lafzi, then the words that are actually pronounced. And the Prophet ﷺ kind of established the golden rule for speech, where he said, ﷺ, "Man kana yu'min billahi wal yawm al-akhir falyakun khayran aw liyasmut." Whoever believes in Allah and the last day, then let him say something good, aw liyasmut, or it is better to be silent. So the rabat, the connection between what we say and the afterlife, is also confirmed in another hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, when he was asked, "Nahnu mu'akhadhun bima naqul?" He was asked, "Are we going to be taken to task, or is there a hisab for the things that we say?" So this person thought it was something, we're not doing anything, we're not hurting people, but we're just saying something. And then the Prophet ﷺ responded, وهل يكب الناس على مناخرهم أو على وجوههم روايتين إلا حصائد ألسنتهم. And are people not dragged on their noses or on their faces to hellfire, except by virtue of what they harvest from their tongues, what their tongues sow, what their tongues reap. So that means what we say has value, has an effect upon others. And so when we talked about the gates before, a recurring theme that we see with the Shaykh, and namely we go through the gate of the Quran and the gate of the Sunnah, the gate of the Sharia. Is this something halal to say? Is it something true? Is it something that's going to bring benefit or not benefit? These are all the things that one should be thinking about before they actually say something. And then the other gates, right? Al-qalb. Do you feel like it's right in your heart? Right? Do you feel like, ما يحك في الصدر? Right? Is it something that grates against your heart, even though it seems to be on the halal side? Or is it something that is going to bring benefit, and you feel that there is kind of a divine permission, there is idhn, right, to say that? And we mentioned the verse of the Quran about the Prophet ﷺ, وَدَاعٍ إِلَى اللَّهِ بِإِذْنِهِ وَسِرَاجٍ مُنِيرًا. دَاعِيًا إِلَى اللَّهِ بِإِذْنِهِ. Right? The one who calls, who invites to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by his idhn, by the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then the other part was sirajan munira. So not just by his tongue, but by his hal, by his state, he is siraj munir, right? Yunir al-akharin. He is the quintessential metaphoric kerosene lamp that gives light to others. And then the last one, فعل الله فيك. هل تشاهد فعل الله فيك? Do you witness the جريان القدر فيك? Are you witnessing that this is the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to the degree almost where you are a non-active participant, where you are making mushahada of your own words? And they said that the sign that the words that you're saying should be said or are going to have a positive effect is that you see them applying to yourself. You see that you are addressing yourself before you're addressing others. So it's not للتعالي على الناس. It's not so that you can have a kind of a feeling of superiority or sanctimony or otherwise or pretense over people, but you see yourself as the one being addressed first and foremost, أنت المخاطب, before other people. And then you also see that the mukhatib, the one who is addressing, is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that what it means, جريان الفعل أو تسرية الفعل فيك, that you see that the words they're moving through you, but you feel that they're coming from a divine inspiration or a divine source. And then obviously that's at the highest level. So those four gates, but at the minimum, the gate of the Quran and Sunnah. So it shouldn't be a word that's backbiting. It shouldn't be namima. It shouldn't be slander or calumny. It shouldn't be a lie. It shouldn't be something that's hurtful to somebody, even though it may be true. These sorts of things, one should be considering it. And you might say, well, after all of that, if I have to think about all those things before I say something, then I don't think I'm going to say anything. And that's kind of the conclusion the Shaykh wants you to arrive at, that be real careful about the things that you say. Otherwise, if it just comes out with al-ahwa, it comes out with your taba', as he mentions, hawa and taba', your natural inclination or your whatever depends upon your mood at that particular time, and then it comes out in that particular way, then that's not something that's going to be, let's say, divinely sanctioned, in the highest instance. It's going to be something that's just merely a reflection or self-expression of what's going on with you. And that's usually how most people speak today. They want to be heard. They want to self-express. They want to be noticed. They want people to, say, oh, that was cool what you said, or that was really, really interesting. And, and I should also mention that the things that you share, whether on like live, like you actually say something, things you share on social media, or things that you retweet, information that you put out there, that is also a form of speech. That is also something that should pass through the gates. And so, yes, it's good to share things that are beneficial and that are going to bring benefit to others, and that's important. But also, the opposite is true. If it's something that hasn't passed through the gates, you haven't really verified either the source of what is being said or the meaning of it. Going back to the verse in Quran tells us that, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا إِنْ جَاءَكُمْ فَاسِقٌ بِنَبَإٍ فَتَبَيَّنُوا. If someone, fasiq, an untrusted or unworthy source or unknown source, جَاءَكُمْ بِنَبَأٍ, comes with a naba', comes with a news, فَتَبَيَّنُوا in one Quranic recitation, another one, فَتَثَبَّتُوا. So فَتَبَيَّنُوا means decipher what does it actually mean. Are you sure that's what they're saying, or they mean something else? And فَتَثَبَّتُوا, ascertain its veracity. In other words, the source. Is that really a hadith? Is that really what this person said? Those sorts of things. Is that what they meant, in terms of meaning? All these things. And some of the tafsir al-Ishariya, which are kind of the more esoteric or Sufi tafsirs, they said here the fasiq is the nafs. Could be understood, right? Because sometimes there's a zahir and there's a batin. So kind of the batini ishari meaning, which also affirms the outward ostensible meaning, is your nafs will come to you with akhbar. Your nafs will come to you with news, with things that it's telling you, oh, that person, his intention or his motivation for inviting you over is just because they want to hit you up for a loan. And you have kind of all of these suspicions, and become suspicious of people's nawaya, of people's intentions and their motivations, and so forth. That's your nafs. When nafs yani fasiqa, ma afsaq minha. There's nothing that's more corrupt than your own nafs, than your own ego, than your own lower soul. So it's coming to you and just wants you to be mired in folly, and for it to satiate itself by feeling that it's better than everybody else. And so فَتَبَيَّنُوا فَتَثَبَّتُوا, right? Tabayyan, is that what's really happening here, or is that kind of my paranoia is kind of getting the better of me, and maybe because I'm in a bad mood, I have a bad opinion of this particular person, or so forth. And the fuqaha, the jurisprudence they have a very beautiful kind of principle that they try to abide by. And when they say لا يقضي القاضي وهو غضبان, the qadi, the judge, should not issue judicial pronouncements, yani not judge a case, وهو غضبان, while they're in a state of anger. In other words, while they're in a compromised emotional state. And they extended this understanding to all other facets of life. So they said, المدرس لا يدرس وهو غضبان. The teacher should not impart knowledge or teach also when they're angry. You should not, the parent should not impart discipline when anger is getting the better part of them. Not that they could be upset about a child's behavior, but when it's the anger that's fueling the manner and mode of discipline, then they should hold off on discipline. The husband should not pronounce divorce when he's in a state of anger. That's not how divorce is supposed to be done. There's a process. There are steps. And so all of these are compromised emotional states that when you do say something, right, and those words are going to have an effect and they could injure people, right? You may say it's just a word, what's the big deal? But no, words hurt. You know, sticks and stones may break my bones, but what's the rest of it? Words will never hurt me. That's not true. Sticks and stones break bones, and words break hearts. So they could even be more injurious to the human being, right, on an emotional, spiritual, kind of mental level. And I think also, just going back to our current situation, everybody's kind of cooped inside, and nerves maybe get frayed, and people are beginning to get antsy, and not seeing really a conclusive end in sight, and not knowing when that's going to come. And so people, I would say, could be in a bit of compromised emotional state. So first of all, you're very fortunate if you're living with other people. So if you have your children around you, or your spouse, or your mother, or your father, or your brothers and your sisters, that's really a great blessing, right? Many people who are doing this completely alone, right? There are several European capitals, especially like in Scandinavia and in Northern Europe, where the close to 50% or more, I think, of households are single households. So people are actually living alone while they're doing this. But if you're not in that situation, then that's a great blessing. And with that blessing may come some tests. And it's good to, if you find yourself, you are in an agitated state, then it's okay to retreat a little bit within yourself, right? In other words, maintain the exterior. So Shaykh, he talks about this. He's like, from the exterior, we're with people. And this was the way the Prophet ﷺ was. كان دائم البشر. In the description in the Shama'il, كان دائم البشر. He was always kind of smiling and welcoming to people. But at the same time, they used to say that he was متواصل الأحزان, أو كما قالوا, that he had kind of consistent ahzan. Al-huzn technically means sadness, but in this context, we would say contemplativeness. So there was a level, obviously, of detachment within the spirit of the Prophet ﷺ and contemplation, but that inner state of his did not prevent him from giving people their rights based upon his outer states. So they don't necessarily have access to his inner state. Right, so this was a mention of some of the Sahaba, but others noticed his outward state. Right, he was someone who was, smiling and welcoming and easy and gentle with people, and that's what we should strive to be. We should cultivate this inner spiritual life of ours, and at the same time, we should also maintain, so cultivation inwardly, and then maintain a exterior of friendliness, of easy mannerism, and so forth. Some of you might say, oh, well, that's kind of like, isn't that like being two-faced? Isn't that being fake? It's not being the real me. People got to see what's really going on with me. No, people don't really have to see what's going on with you. Not necessarily. Make what's going on with you inside. But from the outside, people deserve adab. People deserve good manners. People deserve kindness. People deserve gentleness. And most of the time, I think, when people act out upon others, it's not really that person, they had a long history with them, especially like when you see people act out on strangers and people they barely know. It's not about that one interaction they had, but that was kind of the trigger for them. It was something that was cumulative, that was already going inside, and then something triggered it, and then it all spilled out. So, the guy who feels, downtrodden at work and never gets the promotion, and, doesn't get invited out to lunch by his colleagues and that sort of thing, and then, acts out in a situation where he feels, his nafs anyway, feels that it has the upper hand on something, then you see a kind of temper and, loss of a genial state and so forth. Doesn't mean that person is evil or horrible, but it means that there was something cumulative going on, and then it kind of just came out. So anyway, let's go to the text. So he says, رضي الله عنه وعنكم لا تهتم برزقك فإن طلبه لك أشد من طلبك له. إذا حصل لك رزق اليوم فدع عنك الاهتمام برزق غد كما تركت أمس مضى غدا لا تدري هل يصل إليك أم لا. اشتغل بيومك، لو عرفت الحق عز وجل لاشتغلت به عن طلب الرزق، كانت هيبته تمنعك من الطلب منه، لأن من عرف الله عز وجل كلا لسانه، لا يزال العارف أخرس اللسان بين يدي الحق عز وجل حتى يرده إلى مصالح الخلق، فإذا رده إليهم رفع الكلام عن لسانه والعجمة عنه. موسى عليه السلام لما كان يرعى الغنم كان في لسانه لكنة وعجلة وعجمة ووقفة، فلما أراد الحق عز وجل أن يرده ألهمه حتى قال واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي، كأنه يقول لما كنت في البرية في رعي الغنم لم أحتج إلى هذا، والآن قد جاء شغلي مع الخلق والكلام لهم، فأعني بذهاب الكلال من لساني، فرفع العقدة من لساني، فكان يتكلم ب90 كلمة فصيحة مفهومة بقدر ما يتكلم غيره كلمات يسيرة في حال صغره، رغم أن يتكلم في غير حينه بين يدي فرعون وآسية فلقمه الله عز وجل جمرة. He says, do not be concerned about your sustenance, your rizq, because its search for you is more intense than your search for it. Yani, subhanAllah, Shaykh, he says in like 3 words, يعني ما يثلج الصدور, يعني what gives someone kind of a coolness of heart, because that's true. My rizq, my sustenance is coming to me, whether I search for it or I don't search for it. My searching for it, or is sa'i, as is mentioned in the Quran, is matlub. It's requested. Yes, you should have sa'i, and you should be seeking, and you should be adding value to society. And if that's going to be worth something in terms of compensation to society, then that's how people make their living and so forth, and that's fine. But no, there is not a metaphysical connection, direct metaphysical connection between you are seeking that and Allah giving it to you. In other words, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't withhold your sustenance because you were negligent in looking for it. No, the adab with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that you put forth effort, yes, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decided and determined what your rizq, what your aqsam, what you're going to get in life, what's going to be, who you're going to marry, and or if you're not going to marry, and how many children you're going to have, or not how many children you're going to have, when you're going to die, and all these things. These are arzaq, right? These are things Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has determined for you, and you will get them, whether you search for them or you don't search for them. So its search for you is more intense than your search for it, because that which comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is certain. Right? What comes from Allah to us is certain, and what goes from us to Allah is not so certain. Right? It has ilal, it's ma'lul, as they say. It has deficiencies, it has shortcomings, it has failings. If our deeds, we think we're giving them to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, well, those deeds are not worth anything if they are not completely embedded and embossed in sincerity. So if there's no sincerity in them, then there's no worth to those deeds. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala aslan اشترى المؤمنين أموالهم وأنفسهم بأن لهم الجنة, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He already purchased your wealth and your deeds, and then He gives them back to you. And what do we get in return? Al-Jannah. We get paradise in return. So do not be concerned about your sustenance, because its search for you is more intense than your search for it. When you have obtained today's sustenance, stop worrying about tomorrow's, as you have left yesterday behind. Yesterday is in the past, and as for tomorrow, you do not know whether it will come to you or not. So concentrate on your today, right? Because tomorrow, غير موعود. Tomorrow is not promised. Tomorrow, we hope it's going to come, right? For any of us or for all of us. But it's not something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promises you. But He promises you your rizq, your sustenance. لا نسألك رزقا نحن نرزقكم والعاقبة للتقوى. The Quran. We do not ask you to provide for yourselves. نحن نرزقك. We will provide for you. والعاقبة للتقوى. But al-aqibah, that which is in the final sum, the final destination, the final mode, for what? للتقوى. So taqwa is what Allah asks from you, not to provide your own sustenance. And taqwa means to follow His commands and avoid His prohibitions. So then he goes on to say, if you really knew the Lord of Truth, Azza wa Jal, you would be too preoccupied with Him to go looking for sustenance. His awe-inspiring majesty would prevent you from seeking anything from Him, because when someone really knows Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, his tongue ceases to function. Right? Ibn Ata al-Sakandari, he says in one of the hikam, طلبك منه اتهام الله. طلبك منه اتهام الله. You seeking from Allah, like your sustenance, your rizq, and like things that you want to go for you, in a particular maqam, right? And I'll explain this in a second. Is an accusation that you're leveling at Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's like you have to remind Allah, Allah arzuqni. You have to remind Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imagine someone promised you something and they said, it's all taken care of. I have the bank account number for you and I have the PIN. It's all there. Don't worry about it. It's going to be fine. And this is someone that you implicitly and explicitly trust completely. And then you keep nagging them and say, okay, are you sure it's there? Is it coming? Because I told you that like 6 times ago. Yeah, but I want to make sure. So from that perspective, if you are asking and you have shak, if you are asking and you have doubt whether Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to deliver on His promise or not, هذا سوء أدب وهذا اتهام, right? And that's leveling an accusation against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But if you are asking, right, for ilm nafi' wa rizq wasi'a, right, and wide rizq, and you are doing it لإظهار الفاقة, right, والتحقق بالعبودية, to show that you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, هو الغني ونحن الفقراء. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is one who is completely self-sufficient. هو القائم وهو القيوم. قائم means He's self-sufficient. He doesn't need anyone. والقيوم, He is the one أقام الآخرين, أقام السوى. And He is the one who gives sustenance and gives life, right, and existence to everything else. So القائم والقيوم. That means that if He says He's going to do something, then He's going to do it. So, but when we ask, نظهر الفاقة, right, we're establishing that relationship between ourselves and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and التحقق في العبودية, and to actualize and realize our servitude towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Him being our master and our sovereign. So we ask, right, and we ask because He's the one worthy being of asked, and we pray to Him because He's the one worthy of being worshipped, and we supplicate to Him because He is the one worthy of answering our supplication. Those are the reasons. Not because we have some doubt or we want to remind Allah, maybe He's not listening, maybe He's not paying attention. Hasha, a'udhu billah. Like, no one would ever actually say that with their tongues and say, I don't think Allah's paying attention, except if they're a mulhid, right? Someone who has doubt about God. But sometimes our actions, betray that sentiment in the way that we ask, in the way that we approach our ibadah, in the anxiety and the trepidation that we find ourselves in when we have an expectation of something to be forthcoming that we expect from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then it's not forthcoming. When Allah doesn't answer our dua, does all of the su' adab, does all of the bad etiquette come out? Do we start thinking internally, even though we might not say it, why isn't Allah answering? Is He not paying attention? I'm really in a bind here. I really need Him to do this, and so forth. La. Have thiqa billah, right? Have husn al-dhan billah, have confidence in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's promised you something, and He actually swears by it in the Quran. إنه الحق مثل ما أنكم تنطقون, Surah al-Dhariyat. this rizq إنه لحق مثل ما أنكم تنطقون. It's haqq, it's truth, in as much as you know what you're saying when you speak. This is how true the rizq, the sustenance, is coming to you. So his awe-inspiring majesty would prevent you from seeking anything from him, right? In other words, على سبيل الشك وعلى سبيل الاتهام, not على سبيل إظهار الفاقة والعبودية والتحقق بالعبودية. So if it's in an accusing sense. So his awe-inspiring majesty would prevent you from seeking anything from him, because when someone really knows Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, his tongue ceases to function. Right? If you really see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you are going to be what's called مشغول بالهيبة. Right? And hayba is a form of mushahada. Hayba means to be in awe of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in awe of the majesty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to the degree that يعني كلت لسانك, right? You're not able to speak, right? And you're not able to properly, ask and enunciate. And sometimes the truest supplication is not the one that has rhyming words and is rannan and and sounds nice, and everybody shares it on Facebook, and they have the background background kind of sad nasheed as they're making the dua, and then we think that's a powerful dua. Sometimes the dua is the broken one that doesn't have this dandana or this rannana aspect to it, and it's Shaykh, he mentioned that sometime one of the arifin, he just made this dua. The person who preceded him did the very eloquent and beautiful and rhyming and all that, and then the one who came after said, وَجْعَلْنَا مِنَ الْجَيِّدِينَ. The one who came after him said, وَجْعَلْنَا مِنَ الْجَيِّدِينَ. Make us from al-Jayyidin, which is not even that proper Arabic, right? It would be jiyad, it would be better. Make us from the good ones, the good people. And everyone wept. And yet, actually his son was the one who did it before, and the son said, how come when I did this, very eloquent production and everything, and nobody wept like when they wept for you? He said, yeah, because some things, those that leave from the heart reach the heart, and those things that do only come from the tongue, they do not go past people's ears. So it's not about eloquence of the tongue, it's really about sincerity, and then forthcoming and outpouring of the heart. The knower, the arif, he says, remains dumb and speechless in the presence of the Lord of truth until he sends him back to attend to the interest of his creatures. Then when he restores him to them, he removes the paralysis from his tongue and the impediment from his speech. When Moses, peace be upon him, alayhi salam, was shepherding the flocks and herds, his tongue was afflicted with stammering, gabbling, mispronunciation, and stuttering. So when the Lord of truth, Azza wa Jal, wished to send him back to his people, he inspired him, alhamahu, yani, to say, untie the knot from my tongue, that they may understand my words. Right? This is the Sayyidina Musa said this to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It was as if he were saying, when I was out in the wilderness shepherding the flocks and herds, right? Because he spent 10 years with Sayyidina Shu'aib and the people of Madian. I had no need of this, but now I have work to do among the people, and I must be able to talk to them, so I need to be rid of the impediment in my speech. His Lord therefore moved the knot from his tongue. He used a vocabulary of 90 clearly intelligible terms, a small number of words in proportion to those occurring in the speech of others. In his childhood, he had been eager to speak out of turn in the presence of Pharaoh and Asya, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had made him swallow a live coal. Now, one caveat to this that we learned in Aqidah, that none of the prophets had any sort of physical impairments that would render them unable to deliver the risala, right? Or that would cause people to, seem them unworthy, at least from a human physical aspect. So the lukna or whatever that was with Musa alayhi salam, like it's mentioned here, was something that was temporary and was maybe a temporary state. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala lifted that, much in the same way that happened with the father of Joseph alayhi salam, Yaqub, right? When he went blind, right, out of min al-huzn, from sadness, from losing his son, or what he thought he had lost his son. and then his sight was returned after he took the qamis, after he took the shirt of Yusuf alayhi salam. إني لأجد ريح يوسف لولا تفندون. You know, I have the fragrance of Yusuf, except if you did not prevaricate, speaking to the other sons that he had. So so the same thing with Yaqub alayhi salam. So he was not blind per se, just in much in the same way that Musa alayhi salam also did not have this impediment. He didn't have a speech impediment, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala radda ilayhi, returned to him that eloquence, and he was able to speak to Pharaoh and the people in Pharaoh's court and Bani Israel and his people as well. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also gave him Harun waziran, right? Musa alayhi salam asked for Aaron, his brother, Harun, and so he also was a messenger along with his brother, Musa alayhi salam. So we should then endeavor to make our speech inspired, right? And the way that you make your speech inspired is to make every khatwa and nafas and fikra and khatira, you know, every thought and then every breath and every step one takes in life to be in accordance with the divine command, and not to be mukhalif, not to be against the divine prohibitions, and to يمشي على هذا الدرب, to be continuous in this, to be consistent, to establish moderate, if not modest, spiritual routines in one's life to fill up one's day, what we call ta'mir al-waqt, so that one's day remains connected and remains in remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you don't have to be, you know, in isolation, in quarantine, in your basement to do that. You could be at work doing that. You could be, you know, doing any sort of occupation that one does. But here we're talking about shughl al-qalb. We're talking about the work, or the spiritual work of the heart. So if the heart is doing that, and then all the actions outwardly, as we've seen the Shaykh emphasize more than once, will also be in congruence with that as well. So I think that's kind of what I wanted to say for this session. The rest of the discourse are kind of similar themes that we've seen before. So I'm not going to really address those right now, unless people have specific questions about it. And I'll stop there, inshallah, and look at some of the questions if there are any. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.